Hungarian descent who spent the first 11 years of her life in Chile before relocating to Montreal, Canada. Her creative career started with establishing the Canadian cheesecake franchise in Berlin and became a holistic relationship coach. She now divides her time between Canada, Germany, and UAE. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What a career. What an interesting lady. Really, I have the honor to be interviewing you today. I don't know where to start.
Well, you can start any question and I'll have a long answer for you for sure.
Okay. You started cooking and doing the franchise cheesecake factory. You lived in Chile. So, who really made an impression on you from the beginning to start such a career?
Oh, actually, a long story short, and I'm going to stand for this because I have trouble sitting all the time.
Okay.
The question is actually very interesting. What you're actually trying to say is how it started.
Yes. Who made the first impression on you to start cooking?
Yes. It's very simple. I am what you call the third or fourth culture kid or child, and I have a German Baltic grandmother. She comes from Latvia with Russian influence, and she is the one who raised me for most of the time. And what she said to Alexandra, the most important thing in life is food. And if you want to communicate with people, if you want to do business with people, if you want to become friends with people, and eventually even if you want to get married with someone, guess what? The common denominator is food. But it has to be good food. It has to be food that is that you can identify yourself with or with the other person. So if in this case, since we come from a diplomatic background, we honor the guests with their food as well. So if they came from Russia, or if they came from Latvia, or if they came from Chile, in our case, because we lived in Chile as well, we honor them with their traditional food.
Yeah, I read somewhere that you started interested in food in our part of the world when you were located in Yemen. So, can you explain how did this started with you?
Oh yes, in Yemen there is a... My husband, you have to know, he's a German diplomat. I married a German, and myself, on paper, I am Canadian, half German, half Hungarian, raised in Chile, lived in Canada. And suddenly, I married a German. And the German happens to be a German diplomat. And for some of you, not quite, I think you can understand this, some of the Emirati women and some of the Emirati men, they go through the procedure of a semi or a friendly arranged marriage. How many of you know about this? For the Emirati? Yes, okay. In our families, we have a similar tradition. So I met my husband at the church. And the pastor simply asked if I'm really sure if I want to marry this new stranger. But so I said yes. And we moved to Yemen. And in Yemen, this is what it all started. I wasn't able to cook very well. And the first thing that my husband did when we arrived in Yemen, he had to go to work, and he had missions where I stayed home alone. And he phoned up and said, we're having an event tonight, and please cook something. So I did cook something, but it was a disaster. And the disaster was I went to the black market, and I thought I had meat, but this was actually a carcass. It was meat for animals, a mixture of snake and carcass and frogs. And I don't know what else was in there, but it was actually meant for the consumption of dogs. And I gave the food to our diplomatic guests. They were happy because apparently they tasted good. But that was a time when I was given a cookbook to start cooking, not Emirati, but a Yemeni food, and especially German food, because I had to represent Germany. So for me, that was the first time to actually cook German food. But can you imagine German food entails pork? So I didn't call it pork, but I called it was made out of chicken and I think turkey at the time. But you have to realize in Yemen at that time, 28 years ago, there was nothing available, virtually nothing available. But nevertheless, with what we had, I was able to do something, and I started to enjoy cooking. And that is when I started to join cooking schools. And I realized very soon that this is going to become a little more serious than I had ever anticipated. So I switched my job from working as in the gold mines in Canada and to represent the gold market in Canada and Europe to becoming a cook. So there you are.
Yeah. Also, I read that, at the beginning when you were here and you wanted to, you showed the interest that you wanted to do a cookbook about the UAE. You started knocking on doors on your neighbors who were, from this part of the world, and, you started asking for recipes and so on. Were there, I'm sure there were some awkward, maybe, moments at one point, or funny moments that you can recall, because, being part of this part of the world, we are shy people. We are not, very forward on things, and it's different. So could you?
Yes, I can. In fact, again, we were on a diplomatic mission here in the UAE about 7 years ago, and we stayed for 5 years. And I realized in my first 6 months that I'm not going to be able to travel back and forth between Berlin and the UAE to continue with my Canadian cheesecake company. So what I did, I rented the cheesecake company out, and it was taken over finally by a Russian well-to-do company. It's an oil company. So my Canadian cheesecake company is now with a Russian oil company. And that's when I thought, how can I get to know Emirati families? How can I get to know the Emirati food without having to go to a restaurant? Restaurants, as a diplomat, we get to go a lot, almost every night. So what I did, I had to convince myself, and it took me several days, to decide that I will be knocking at doors. And where was I in Abu Dhabi? In Al Bateen. In the area of Al Bateen, behind the former The One, for those of you who know that particular company, or behind the BMW dealership. I went knocking from door to door until I had a very kind gentleman, and I assume he was the police, who said, can I help you? And I said, I think you can help me. I'm trying to get to know Emirati women, Emirati men who are able to cook well. He said, look, my family cooks well, but I think you have to decide quickly to get into one of the homes so that we can take care of you. Okay. So luckily, my direct neighbor who did not know me, her name is Nada, and she is in, I think, one of the second or third last chapters. She helped me a lot. What she did, she saw that I was having a discussion with I assume security. And so she said just to come in, and I was then introduced to her Emirati dishes. On that particular day, she was cooking, she was preparing Emirati coffee, Emirati tea, legemat, and biryani. And she said, so I stayed with her from 11 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. And that is when she tried to convince me, I wasn't convinced at that particular time, is that if I were to collect all the Emirati recipes, then I would have to decide to either leave very quickly the country with all the recipes, or to stay in the country a little longer and to have an Emirati cookbook done, because according to her, there was no Emirati cookbook available. And this is how things started to develop. I didn't take it seriously in the beginning until about halfway through, when I thought, this is becoming more interesting and more serious than I had ever anticipated. Whereas the families, where I also knocked at doors, especially in Fujairah, for those of you who don't know, or who may know Asa Al-Kubaisi, she's the artist #1 in the UAE. We had an agreement. She drove me to her home in Fujairah, and she said, look, I have some contacts, but I don't have sufficient contacts, but you'll have to find them on your own. So what I did, I walked Fujairah for probably close to 7 or 8 days, returning back to her home in Fujairah. And this is how I got to know the Fujairah, or Emiratis living in Fujairah, who are in the book, who are mentioned in the book as well.
Oh my God.
It was uncomfortable, yes. It was uncomfortable for the families too. But what I learned very quickly is that if you have an Emirati woman who believes in what you're doing, then they will introduce you to their friends and to their members of the family. And this is how things started rolling.
I read that you did 159 interviews.
Yes.
And all the photography in the book, you took them yourself because you took some courses in that. What an amazing thing, But to get properly the recipe, was there a friend who spoke the language that they could translate to you exactly the spices, the way they cook it, and everything?
Yes. What happened was the following. The first 3 chapters, I actually gathered someone off the street. Children who go to grade 5, grade 10, they were able to speak English. So they were kind enough to come into the house with permission to translate. Then later on, I had Aza Al-Kubaisi who came with me, and she translated on the spot. Then I had there are 2 chapters in the book where no one was able to translate, but what we did, she just cooked a little slower. I was able to smell the spices and identify them. And then what I did to make sure, upon return to Germany, I recooked every recipe in the book. So the neighbors and my husband and I and my children, we all gained a lot of weight because I had to cook them every day until I finished cooking all the recipes. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
You also were a holistic coach.
Yes.
So what made you shift from holistic to cookery, or do you still practice the holistic coaching?
I do both. We all know that if you're writing a book, and if you have several books on the market, unless you happen to be very well known, I'm sure Motivate is going to make me very, very famous soon, and I'll be a multi-billionaire. But until I reach that level, you have to earn an income. And in order for me to be able to come and visit the UAE, my family in Canada, and my other families in other parts of the world, I work, and I enjoy being a life coach. And life coach, in this particular case, I learned in Dubai. Dubai is the #1 holistic coaching spot in the world. Not only holistic coaching, but life coaching and relationship coaching. And I chose relationship coaching for power partners, or not power partners. Relationship does not mean husband and wife. It could mean brothers and sisters in business. And this is the reason why I became a coach, and I became a licensed coach internationally. So holistic coach, just to make a long story short, I'm sorry to interrupt you. For those of you who want to or may want to become coaches, it simply means that you work with methods that have little to do with a structured system. It just simply means that something that we like doing is to work with your heart, with your feelings. And then if you want to go and follow the American system, is Kinslow, or a physicist who proved that you can work with energy. And this is what we do. There's no healing, but we work with energy. Okay.
Very interesting. How about, when you established the book, how did it received in your hometown? Was it something different for them than their own cooking? People were interested in it. Could you?
It's actually a very controversial question and a very good question. Hometown, for those of you who don't know, I live in the former East Germany. And just to visualize this, former East Germany. I'm at the border, at exactly the border between East and West. West is advanced, and they're quite open for everything. The East is still adjusting to the changes. And I live in a town, in a very, very chic town, very elegant town, and I'm about the only foreigner there. And it's called Eichwalde. And if you want to come and visit me, you can come and visit me. And Eichwalde is not an easy town to, I mean, I get used to it, there's no problem. But it was already hard enough and difficult enough for the former East Bloc Germans to accept a Canadian. And then to tell them that I am cooking, I'm giving workshops. This is what I do in the former East Bloc. I give workshops, Emirati food workshop, and Yemen, as well as Canadian and Iran, where I lived as well. It's difficult for them to accept the Emirati food, but it's slowly going to come, that they will probably accept it. And where it's very well accepted is the what we call West part or Berlin. And they're open to the fact that we are, or that I'm the only Emirati cook, if you so wish, or offering workshops in Emirati cooking. It's interactive cooking. I do very little cooking, but I teach them to cook, and we have several kitchens where they can cook, and they get to take everything home. Germany is ready for Emirati cooking, absolutely. We have more or less 4.5, almost 5 million new Arabs in the last 5 years, and we are well prepared to cook the Levant food as well as Syrian, and in this case, Emirati food, because Emirati food is exotic. Emirati food is different. Emirati food means you cook in a group. It also means different from the Levant food, is that you sit on the floor around a sarut. You probably know the sarut. And it's absolutely wonderful, and there's a very holistic, for those of you who want to know what the holistic aspect is. In the Emirati tradition, rituals, there is a holistic aspect of it. If you sit on the floor in a circle, you've closed the circle, and you're grounded. Grounded means that you're connected with the ground. You're connected, as most women have said in the book, you're connected with Allah through food and through the production of the food, meaning that the Emirati woman or their assistants, they chose the food, and the women whom I visited, they cook still. They cook the food. They choose the ingredients, and they make sure they touch and smell, and make sure that the food is in good condition. Basically, what it means, and important to all the women in my book, is that you have the family gathered in a circle. No mobiles, no radio, no TV. And this is the only moment, it's usually at lunchtime or dinner time, when they are together and when they actually connect amongst each other. And as most of the women have said, when you're sitting on the ground with God, because the ground supplies you with the food, and with the heaven, because your head is pointing towards the heaven. So this is, I enjoyed these moments, and they're very slow. It's a very slow eating process. You don't throw the food, or you don't eat fast, at least amongst all the women where I was, and also with Chef Mosaba, whom you will see in the book as well. You make sure that you eat with your right hand, and you have your logma, which is a portion of food with your hand, and there are 4 movements. You massage the food into your palm, and slowly, while you're talking and connecting with the members of your family, and the thumb then pushes the food into the mouth. And as I was told, as long as the food doesn't crumble down and the fingers don't touch the lips. I've had all the women being very successful at this. I had to practice, and I think I'm able to do it now. But these are the most beautiful, beautiful moments that I've ever encountered, especially this chapter with Mariam Al-Ka'abi. With Mariam Al-Ka'abi is sitting in a sarut, and she made sure that we sat for 45 minutes, and she explained exactly what was going on, and the children were all calm. They were playing outside, and they became calm automatically once they were seated around the sarut. And this is one way. We all pay a lot of money for being coached, for meditation. No, you don't have to do that. It's right in front of us. It's amongst the Emirati families who exercise this at home. So it's all there.
Before we open for questions, I just can't contain myself to know, what are these herbs for?
This is a nice surprise. 1 minute. I'm going to put the microphone down and I'll be right with you. Okay, they look a little sad. They've been traveling home. Okay. Sorry, I forgot the microphone. I have a twig here with me, and for those of you who know what I'm showing, but any of you know what I'm showing? Look at the greenery that I'm holding in my hand and the picture. They're both the same. You know what it is? Okay, wait a minute. 1 minute. The gentleman knows? Really?
It's a big tree. It's a yeah. This herb's from a big tree. Yeah.
It's from a big tree, and what's the name of the tree?
غاف.
No?
Not a gaff.
We'll have a dispute?
Yes, the gaff just.
You must do it with me. It's a غاف. Yeah.
Okay, anyone else who can tell me, is it a guff or is it not a guff?
No idea.
I have no clue.
No problem. Anyone else who wants to? I know there is a lady, an Emirati. Yes, I will come with you. What? Yes. Okay, there is a gentleman in the back who would like to say something, and especially the lady in black with the red dress. Raf? You're saying it's a Raf? Are you sure?
Maybe.
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 Hold on to that maybe. You hold on to the gaff, please. And Nazra Al-Blushi, by the way, can you stand up, please? Oh, wait, 1 minute. Is it a gaff or maybe a gaff?
It is a gaff.
It is a gaff, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, there's one more gentleman in the back, please. Okay, we're trying to guess if this is a gaff or not a gaff. Huh. We'll find out right away.
You know what's that?
Okay, no? Here, take it.
I don't know the botanical name, but in India it's called Gulmohar tree.
Gulhamadri.
Yes.
Yeah, wallahi. Yeah, very good. And I'm going to ask Nazra Al-Blushi to come to the front, please. Ha! Nazra Al-Blushi, by the way, for those of you who do not have the book, and by the way, for those of you who have the book and have not read all the stories, Nazra Al-Blushi is one of the major contributors in this particular book with stories. And Nazra is going to tell you whether this is Ghaf or not Ghaf. Okay?
It is a gaff.
Loud.
Yeah, we have a lot of trees, gaff trees,
Where?
in
your
our backyard.
And you're going to tell us, in the book, whose hands are these?
My mom.
Yeah. Thank you. You're fantastic. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo.
Nazra Al-Blushi, she's, her mother is in the book under the name of Al-Za'abi, and her aunt is in the book as well under Za'abi. And they have wonderful recipes. So for those of you who are going to collect or harvest ghaf, make sure that it is in a permitted area, that you have the permission to do it. If you have it in your garden, that's not a problem, or if you have an Emirati friend who has, and you will ask them if they can give you some ghaf, as I was given quite a bit of it. Yes, but otherwise, if it's on public soil, you may have to seriously ask for permission before you harvest them yourself. And the way to do it, although it looks a little sad here in my hand, but in the book, you chop them to eternity until they're very, very small pieces, lemon juice, oil, and salt, and with rice, and possibly if you have with a little bit of dry fish, or with fresh fish, it's up to you. It's exquisite. What it is, it's your power food. It's your power food. It's your Emirati power food. Like in the Western, you have your wheatgrass, or you have barley, which is green. But this is your Emirati power food. You don't need to go out and buy wheatgrass. You just go and get your ghaf and liquefy it. Just put it into your smoothie. Why go out? It's right in front of you. It's one of the best chlorophyll and blood cleaning agents that you can find, one of the many. So this is a wonderful, wonderful tree. They're very large, they're sustainable, and who knows why we're using, which tree we're using on the tolerant, which means the logo for the national tolerance sign. Is it the Gulf? Who said? Yes, the Gulf. Yes, it is the Gulf. Bravo. Yes, bravo to everyone. Absolutely. It is the Gulf. So if you can even buy the seedlings. And it's encouraged by the government of the UAE to plant Gulf wherever you can. If you have a balcony, start growing them on the balcony. If you have a garden, start growing them in the garden. And you will have your own power food. They grow very quickly. They're sustainable. And if they are in the desert, it means there is a water bed. You don't have to go far. You just go in and dig in sand and you have water if you need water. They need very little water, but there's a water bed under the tree. Okay, so that's one. I will put down the microphone just 1 second, please. Okay, last but not least, I have another power plant, a UAE power plant, and it is not only a power plant, but it is your source of oxygen, chlorophyll, blood cleanser, vitamin C, another form of, it's not vitamin C, but it's a form of vitamin C. And if you know, can guess what it is? I'm going to, Arta, that's exactly what it is. I'm going to ask you if you could pass this on, you can chew on it. It's going to be sour. Yes, it's going to be sour. Yes, it's going to be astringent. Your tongue may curl. And machicha, she's right, in fact. Absolutely. The machicha means you chopped it. Anything chopped is machicha. So the plant is called arta. Yeah. Again, Arta is protected by the government of the UAE. Absolutely. If you're going to harvest and you're not part of the Emirati community, make sure that you ask for permission. It's absolutely obligatory. It's protected. And these were given there in Khatam. It's the path or the city between Abuظbي Island and Al Ain. So you can harvest, but you have to knock at the door, as I did, and you ask for permission. I mean, that's completely obligatory. It is, and you can also grow them if you can. Again, you machicha, which means you cut them and you chop them in your mortar and pestle. As long as you can until it's almost liquefied. Not quite, but almost. And the reason being is that this is the way the chlorophyll will exude, will come out of these little branches. And the bitterness will alleviate itself a little bit, but the bitterness we need. The Emiratis knew very well why they ate bitter green power food. This is to activate the digestion in the intestine and to protect yourselves from diseases such as colon cancer and other versions of cancer internally. Having said this, you mash it, you add lemon juice, salt, a little bit of oil, if you so wish, and have it as a salad with a lot of rice. Or it is mashed, chopped and mashed until it's almost a puree, mixed with yogurt. You may wish to add a bit of bizarre, your Emirati bizarre, not the Saudi Arabia, is a different flavor. And then you use it as a sauce on top of your Emirati rice. Exquisite. It's one of the preserved dishes that are coming back. For those of you who have not had it, and if you are Emirati, go and try them. You can even take them some here with you, so you can go home and try your power food. And if you're not into that, you can use it as your personal power food in your smoothie. It is bitter, but it's very good. Okay.
Okay, now we open for questions. Anybody have any questions?
Good morning. What
Good
an
morning.
inspiring morning for such people like us who love food. I just bought the book and I went through it quickly. Beautiful pictures, and I believe it's well researched. And I'm glad your husband did not divorce you and your guests were not poisoned on your first, dinner.
Yes, I agree with you because we had 3 days of prayers. I mean, we prayed for 3 days.
Well, actually, I was going to ask you a question about how did you take this experience and the great Emirati food abroad, but you elaborated on that.
Yes.
That's what you were doing in Germany. What I wanted to know, if your research explore the original food of the UAE in any way or form, and if you did, what was the methodology? Thank you.
It was not easy. I'm going to be honest about this. I went to the National Archives as well. Not easy. One particular, there were several books available. They hinted, but not enough for me to say I can use them as reference. I've now been assisted, or I will be assisted by Nazra Al-Baloushi's director, who works at the National Archives, for book number 2. However, to answer your question from a different angle, I went to the Emiratis who had still contact with plants, with the natural resources, and with great-grandmothers who did not want to be mentioned in the book, but they did give the information. This is how slowly and surely I came. Although for the Ghaf, absolutely Al-Balouchi and Za'abi family and the Arta is definitely amongst the grandmothers or great-grandmothers who still use plants to heal post-operative incisions, or, as they say, even grave illnesses. And these are the places that border with, Emirati area or that borders with Oman. You have the greatest number of plants that are still available for healing purposes. And this is where I have most of the information from.
I'm glad you have book number 2 on the way.
I'm sorry?
I'm glad you have number 2 coming along.
Yes, book number 2. Yes, that will depend again. Motivate is going to make me a multi-billionaire. So I have to bring book number 2. But book number 2 will be a little different for those of you who know me or who already have the information. It's Emirati man cooking. Emirati man cooking, but mostly different dishes from book number 1. So I'm looking for Emirati men who love cooking, but going back the traditional method and going much closer to their holistic method of using ingredients. And I don't mean any instant powder or soup or ketchup. I mean the original way of cooking. We're all going back. The whole world is slowly going back to basics. We're all getting slightly, we're becoming more aware of the fact is to go back to eating fresh food, possibly even back to basics.
معلش اسألي تفضلي. Hi.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, I be late a little bit.
No problem.
The
I
office,
saw you here. You're participating.
No, because today we have the fashion show. We have a little bit of problem. I solve it. Thank you to an honor for us to accept our invitation, and I'm glad you been all the week with us, and we feel you are part of our family now, part of our الملتقى. And it's really, for me, it's thank you to try to discover our food and to try to make a book. And it's really for us also, it's another honor. Why you choose to, I don't know, Haifa, you ask this question, you ask...
yeah, but in a different way, you're asking it differently.
And why you choose Emirati food? And why, what's make you to want to discover and to find this food? And what is the curiosity? What kind of curiosity you have to do all this?
One of the best questions as well here. When I arrived from Berlin in Abu Dhabi the first day upon starting our diplomatic mission here, I wasn't expecting this at all, and I was greeted at the embassy, German embassy, and at the hotel where we stayed, and also the invitations within 3 days. Always the welcoming aspect of an Emirati always will welcome you. And he or she will welcome you with Emirati coffee, dates, chocolate, food, and this in a non-ending circle until you decide to end. If the Emirati host ends the giving of the food, I think then we have bad relations, because then I'm not of any benefit, but I've never had that experience. There is an etiquette. And this is why to answer your question, this is the reason why I started the book. I wanted to know, why is it that the Emiratis have this incredible knowledge of etiquette on hosting guests? Something that many other countries do it in different ways, or a little less, or not at all. But here I was greeted in such a way that, as I was accustomed to from my grandparents in Hungary or in Latvia, the German side. There is an etiquette. There's an etiquette on how you sit. There's an etiquette on how you dress. Why do you wear the shagala? Why do you wear your coat? And why do you sit around the sarut and not on top of sarut? And why do you eat with your right hand? So this is the reason, the main reason why. And I was honored. I was honored everywhere I went, whether I went to a hotel or whether I went to a private home. I was honored just stepping in. They didn't know who I was. For 3 days, they would tolerate, and then later on, they will ask questions. This is one of the etiquettes as well. I'm used to living a very etiquette structured life.
I went to our aristocrat. You know the aristocrat people. It's how this by it's very delicate for that one.
Yes.
How you go to the opposite side.
You mean here?
No, here, and you know you are from the aristocrat family.
Yes.
You know how is when they eat, how
that's right. Yes.
And our is different. You know, the sharing in same plate. We eat in our hand. And,
but it's an etiquette. It is different. Of course, it's different. It has to be different. And you are special, just as we are special, or others are special. And you are. Is this still working? No. Yeah. Okay, I think this is working better now. Indeed, it is different, but I had fun. The fact was that I was curious, and I am always a curious person, and I adapt very, very quickly, and that's one of my specialties. Not because I was trained. I was born into a family where we had to adapt, and that was part of the game. And it was fun. I didn't consider it as being restrictive. It's simply fun. And for me, it was different, your etiquette, but one of the most rewarding messages that I ever received, and that is how you invite your guests, where you place them, when you place them, and if you're in a tent in a desert, where you place them, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. It will depend, and it's a message. You're always giving symbols out and messages as to whether you will appreciate, or if you're not sure who the guest is, will you accept the guest or will you not? And if you don't know it, then I would have left. If I would not have done the book, I would have left the UAE back to Germany not knowing your culture at all. Perhaps just the superficial level. And I would have said, yes, I was in Abu Dhabi. Yes, I was in the UAE. I had a lot of fun. I went eating, and God knows I was invited. But that's not good enough. That's not good enough. Just as when you come to Germany, you also inquire how we tick. I'm not German, but how they operate. No, that doesn't work for me. And I did the same thing with Yemen and when we were posted in Iran. A little more difficult, but we had the same.
Hello.
And the longest period that I've had, the most appreciated period was here, this last posting for my husband, since there's a big age gap between both of us. So we were 5 years here, and I must admit, this was like having received a big diamond ring. And instead I have no diamond ring for me, but the cookbook and your culture. It was your culture. Okay.
Hello.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, last question, please. Last question.
Yes, no problem.
Have you heard of SIDAF?
SIDAF?
Yeah.
No, I may have to learn that from you.
Well, I don't know anything. I just read a book about the days where they used to cook SIDAF. Mix it with the flour to make bread.
Yes.
When there is some kind of drought and they don't have access to enough food supplements,
yes.
So they use SIDAF.
Are you talking about Ras Al Khaimah?
Yeah.
Or in general?
No, maybe northern. I'm not sure. Maybe northern Emirates.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then
SIDAF one plant. It's
yes.
in the sea coming like, but it's before
seaweed.
No, not like seaweed, but it's when we have like شو يسمونه crisis مجاعة.
Yes.
Starvation. When the 1 year we have starvation, they didn't have flour and this one. That's why
Yes.
they use this one.
Yes.
To make it with the bread. They mix
Correct.
it with the والله بسم الله with كملتي with the
With
لا
dough.
مع القمح. Eh.
Wheat.
Wheat and
Wheat.
they make it because they didn't have money and they didn't have
Yes.
wheat. That's why they mix it. And the
this is-
old style and very many years ago. يعني.
That's actually wonderful. Book 2. Book 2. Yeah, inshallah. Actually. And
You know, like what you call now alternative.
yes, alternative. Exactly. Absolutely. For those who are gluten intolerant, for example. Yes.
I have. Yeah,
the
good
gentleman.
morning.
Here, the gentleman in the back. Yes. Okay.
Guest first. No, guest first. I have.
It's
Yeah, I want to ask a question. Like, what is so peculiar about Emirati cooking? Like, everybody is cooking haris, tharid, biryani. Biryani also, like, originally came from India. What the most peculiar thing is it? You mentioned that bizar or baharat is different than the Saudi baharat.
Yeah.
Or what is the most attractive thing that attracted you to the Emirati cooking? What is so peculiar about it?
it's not
Is there
just
like
the
a
cooking.
certain dishes
Yeah.
that belong to the Emirati cuisine that you cannot find it anywhere else in the world or in the Gulf area?
You're absolutely. I think this question is going to be from a different perspective again. You're right. In the Gulf area, we have more or less the same dishes, but they're made differently, and the mixture of the bizarre is different for every state or for every country within the Gulf. I agree with you. But here comes the extra note. It's not only the food. The food comes with the women who cook. The food comes with the man who cook. And I chose those who were very kind and also kind to themselves. They're kind to their environment. And there is a correlation between the person who makes the food and then serves the food. The food tastes better. It's, for example, I had Salha al-Shamsi. Salha al-Shamsi lives in Alain and in Abuظbي. And she cooks the best margouga on this earth. So if in the book, if you're going to, in my opinion, it's the best margouga. You may say, you have a better margouga. Then I will come to you and you will come in my book number 2. But the most interesting reason why, what motivated me to choose to write a cookbook, the food, yes, but it was the people, the Emirati people. Without the Emirati, the food alone, no. No, it was a combination of both. And it's not only the kindness, but it's their etiquette, their kindness. And I did choose, and it was specific what was my focus. Everyone in the book has this very kind and calm wave. In other words, they're very nice and very welcoming. So I didn't have to worry on not being myself. They were being themselves. And that's, again, part of the holistic way of coaching, okay? So it's all in one. Have I been able to answer your question?
Yes. Also, in the Gulf, how about the presentation of our food?
Yes.
Like, maybe we are not as successful as, the Lebanese or the Mediterranean area where they represent their food in a certain way.
Yes.
Like our type of food,
yes.
Like we serve it in a big plate, like the tharid, the haris.
Yes.
When you try to present the Emirati cooking to foreigners, do you serve it in a certain way or do you represent it in a certain way? Or how do you find it, the reaction of the people when you serve that kind of food?
I serve it 2 ways. Those who are participating in my workshop, it's done authentic, exactly how you know it, in the big pot. I also transported the 100-liter pot from Abu Dhabi to Berlin. And it's all done outside, and the sarut is outside, on green grass, by the way, okay? And then we have our functions for our guests. I cannot serve it in the big pot. What I did is I placed a small amount into small recipients with a spoon inside, and it's labeled. Or the chabab, for example. They're made very small, And I place, for example, your cheese, which is curdled yogurt, which you boil the yogurt with lemon juice or with vinegar, and then you remove the water, and you have your Emirati cheese on the kebab, which is fantastic, and with a bit of date syrup on top. And they love it. It's small. That's one way of presenting. But you should not forget, don't compare yourselves to other countries and think that they are better or doing it better. They're doing it in their way. Your culture, your kitchen culture, your food culture is changing.
Yeah.
Chef Mustaba and the younger chefs, they're changing it. The recipes are the same, but they're making it look very appealing, as you're saying. Paying attention to the etiquette of beautifying the food. Small quantities, and then it's like a performance. You hardly recognize it as being your food, which bothers me a little bit. But on the other hand, it is still the original recipe, and it's your Emirati dish, whichever one. It could be marguga, kebab, mohalla, it could be any of them. And as a decoration, which is coming very soon, the arta and your raf will be used as a decoration, but with a story. I mean, this is what I do. It's photographed, and then all the other chefs see it too. So there is a change happening. So there are two channels going, your traditional and your modern. So you can modernize it. You don't have to sit at home and have the big pot. You can do it in a small pot, and you still have your traditional Emirati food and enjoy it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I know there was someone else who had a question.
Yes, I have one for you. And my husband is involved in cooking, and he loves cooking. And sometimes he creates some foods. He mixes from everywhere, I don't know. It comes very nice. So do you have this hobby, first? Second thing, how long it takes for you to put this book together?
Altogether, 5 years, but I would subtract 1.5 for technical reasons. It took me longer because I stretched the first 3. It was 3 years of research. And now I can actually do it much shorter. And then I went back to Germany because we were posted back to Germany. And I took 6 months off because I couldn't adjust. I was unable to adjust. So I had issues to tackle. I went back to Canada, came to my mother and to my family. I came back to Germany and said, okay, is it going to be a book or not? And then I pushed for the book. And then this is when Motivate came into the picture.
Good.
When I came back here and I had my finished book in my hands, not knowing that a publisher will take over. I was my own publisher. And then Motivate saw it, and then they took over, which is great. Thank God they did.
Excellent.
Yes.
Alexandra, that was amazing.
Yes.
Haifa,
Session.
but
One
one
more question.
addition, one remark, or a small question, in fact. Alexandra, you, like Samira asked you, it took you 5 years, but 1.5 in Lahey. I know that from you that you lived with you spent some time with local women.
Yes.
How many friends did you come out through this beautiful experience and journey?
Friends is again another holistic definition here. Friends means that you are close to them and they like you and you like them.
Yeah.
We're about 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
25 Emiratis.
And from all ages.
From all ages.
The mothers, the daughters.
Here, the youngest one is, I think, 25 or so, and she's the youngest.
Yes.
And then I also have all her siblings, and they're now 1 or 2, up to, I think you have 9 or 10 siblings. She has many of them. Yes.
Yes.
From all ages up to the great-grandmother who died with.
Yeah. Great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Haifa.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have come to close this session. Very interesting, but our next guest is here.
Yes.
And thank you very much, Alexandra,
You're welcome.
for a beautiful session.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone here who's involved, absolutely everyone who supported me, and the team who managed to have me here. That includes Motivate. Thank you very much to everyone. And to all my guests who came from Dubai, who came from Al Ain, who come from Germany, and we have Nazra Al-Blushi from the book, which is absolutely fantastic, and the others who volunteered to come because I met them outside 10 minutes before starting, and they left about maybe 5 or 6 minutes ago, and the gentlemen here were 4 of them, very kind, who came as well. Thank you again to everyone.